All right, down in Mobile last week for the Senior Bowl, Ross Dellenger from Sports Illustrated, college football season over. It's officially draft season. Delly's still working. Great piece over at SI. You can find it on Delly's Twitter about Dave Aranda, at Ross Dellenger. Dave Aranda, as Dellenger had a nice sit-down with him last week. Dennis Johnson going to join Aranda's staff. So let's jump in with Dellenger and talk some college football stuff here as the season's over, but the news continues to be created. Last week down in Mobile, it seems like some of the LSU guys had a nice week, headlined by Lloyd Cushenberry. What'd you learn last week about Cushenberry and some of the Tigers down at the Senior Bowl?
Yeah, they did. They had a good week, and especially him. It seemed like, I was only there for the first couple of days, but got to talk to a few of them briefly at the media day on Tuesday, and watched a little bit of practice. And the big thing down there, even more important than practice in the game, is the meetings these guys have in the Renaissance Hotel in downtown Mobile, kind of the headquarters of the Senior Bowl. They meet with NFL execs and scouts sometimes for the first time, and so a lot of the most important things are those that we don't see, in the lobby or in rooms in the Renaissance. And it's always a good event to cover, a good event for those guys to kind of improve their status and get to know a little bit more about the process.
You were on the beat when Dave Aranda was brought on as defensive coordinator at LSU, and then you had a great sit-down with him last week, or a couple of weeks back, right before he was named Baylor head coach. Why do you believe that Baylor was the right fit, and why now for Aranda to make the jump to the head seat?
Yeah, I got a chance to spend some time with Dave around the I think it was the week of the semifinal in Atlanta. Got to talk to him quite a bit, and it's kind of a story I'd always want to tell, but just never could find the right time. Obviously, as you guys know, we don't get, at us beat writers there, we didn't get a ton of time with the assistant coaches. So sometimes it's difficult to tell the stories and good stories that you want to tell. And I was able to get some time with David to talk about his heritage a little bit. And he's Mexican American. His family's from the Guadalajara area of Mexico. It's something he's never really talked about a lot, but he kind of embraces, and we spoke about it, and it kind of, in a way, it kind of all worked out for the story, because he goes to a place in Waco that's about 1/3, Hispanic and Latino population. So it was kind of interesting how it all worked out. To answer your question about why Baylor, I think 4 years is a long time to be a coordinator out of school. That's probably beyond the average for a Power 5 coordinator. I don't know what the average is, maybe 2 to 3 years. And Dave was. It's just, I think it got to that point where it's probably time for something new for him. I think it was time to elevate himself, whether that be an NFL defensive coordinator job or a head coaching job. And I can kind of say this now. I couldn't then, but around mid to late December, I was under the impression that this was going to be it for Dave. He was going to find something else. It was time. And sometimes it's time for those coaches. And thankfully for him, that he didn't get or turned down or whatever the UNLV job, because obviously he got something much, much better. But I think if this wasn't going to happen, part of me feels like that Dave might have eventually ended up in the NFL. But it's just sometimes it's time for change, guys. You do something for so long, and it's time to kind of change up. And he obviously wanted to be a head coach. We talked about that with him at length in the postseason. He wanted to be a head coach, and so he got his chance.
Well, okay, then I want to lead you right. If you're okay with venturing into the realm of opinion, Ross, how do you think he'll translate to being a head coach?
Dave is, as you guys know, he's a different guy. I think that a lot of people felt like, because of his personality, which is kind of quiet, more cerebral guy, not the yeller and screamer, not the guy out. It's going to necessarily win the press conference or anything like that. He's not that kind of guy. He recruited obviously at LSU, but probably wasn't known as the guy out there leading the recruiting charge or anything like that. So I think a lot of people expected him to be an NFL defensive coordinator somewhere in a dark room, drawing up X's and O's or watching film or something like that.
Yeah.
But he's got to branch out a little bit and be something different at Baylor, and we're starting to see it. I know, from some of the things I've seen him doing over there, it's a little bit different, Dave. It's the one kind of that has to take hold of the spotlight and has to be kind of the face of a program. That's going to be different for him. I wonder. In a way, I question how it's going to happen. But I'll tell you this: that, you talk to people around the LSU football community and staff and in the building there, and they'll tell you, nobody works harder than Dave. Nobody loves the craft more than Dave, and so you're going to get a guy that's going to grind for you for sure. But he's just like a different personality, especially for Matt Rule. He's a completely different kind of guy, and I'll be interested to watch and see how that kind of translates.
Yeah, Rule, one of the most kind of actively affable coaches out there in terms of just getting you immediately like him. But David, it'll be interesting to see how that quiet demeanor translates to that kind of very public-facing position. Through that hiring of himself as head coach, he's now brought in Coach Munoz to coach wide receivers, maybe like a passing game coordinator situation. He brings in Meatball. What were your thoughts on those moves? And do you have any insight into how LSU is taking those moves? I know that Coach Aranda had very, very nice things to say to Coach Orgeron or about Coach Orgeron in his introductory press conference.
Well, I think both of those moves were made. They were elevations for those guys. In a lot of ways, significant elevation promotions. I think you talk about double, triple, quadruple salary. Not only that, but you're talking about an on the field role where they were off the field at LSU. And I know for sure that Dennis Johnson is going to basically more than triple, I believe, his salary. It's pretty incredible. It's really tough for him and any of us to pass up something like that. And again, you throw in the fact that it's a role on the field again where he was at LSU last year before he got hurt in the basketball game over the summer.
Yeah.
And it's kind of an easy decision when you talk about that. I don't think it was easy for him though, and I think it took a lot of trying by Dave Aranda. I think there were a lot of attempts made, in a lot of talks over the course of a week and a half or so. But in the end, again, you triple your salary and you go to on the field. An on the field job is just it's tough to pass up. And as far as LSU, I think they understand. I think people over there understand. If George Munoz and Dennis Johnson weren't going to be able to be elevated to an on the field position, and it doesn't seem like that was going to happen, or they're not going to happen immediately. At least not going to happen immediately.
Yeah.
Then I think over there in the LSU football building, those guys understand that not only is it a pay increase, but it's a elevation to an on the field role and in a Power 5 job, and they couldn't really pass that up.
Thank you, Ross.